This is the EPSON LS12000B 4K HDMI 2.1 laser projector. We're going to open it up, check out what's inside, and then we're going to do a brief overview of the settings. Let's unbox. All right, first of all, big shout out to the Grid Hi-Fi for loaning this out to me for review. If you want to pick up the EPSON LS12000B, make sure you check out the Grid Hi-Fi. The Grid Hi-Fi is the largest showroom in Texas for home theater and home audio. At the Grid Hi-Fi, we cater to the discerning audiophile and electronic lifestyle. Subscribe to the Grid Hi-Fi YouTube channel for regular content and check out our Instagram page as well. But if you're in the Houston area, come check out the Grid Hi-Fi in person, or you can check us out online 24/7 at www.gridhifi.com. And don't forget to let them know the Haterade Cowboy sent you. All right, so this does come double boxed. And actually there's a lot of boxes in here. This looks like it's the cinema mount kit. So it comes with the kit to mount with the LS12000B. I believe the LS12000 or the LS11000 doesn't come with that. And this is just an empty piece of cardboard and another empty piece of cardboard. So we've got two pieces of empty cardboard to make sure that this is well protected in shipping. And as I said, it's double boxed. All right, I don't need this mount because I have my own hush box. All right, let's see what we get inside. Always be careful when you're cutting so you don't accidentally cut the projector. Ooh, this looks nice. All right, so on the side we get, what is this? Looks like this is the back cover. So the LS12000B comes with this back cover. And then you have your power cable, remote, and batteries. All right, there we have our beautiful EPSON LS12000B. So again, this is a HDMI 2.1 projector. So, you know, it's going to support your 4K 60, 4K 120, but no 8K. Even though it's HDMI 2.1, this does not have 8K, but you will be able to game with this, you know, with a very low latency on this. So for those of you gamers that are big on projection. All right, so my memory card decided to die on me in the middle of filming, but as I was saying, is that this projector supports HDMI 2.1. However, it does not support 8K, so there is no 8K E-shift, 8K upscaling, or anything like that. But you do get your 4K 60, 4K 120, and if you're a gamer and you're into projection and gaming, then you will get a really low lag time for gaming. All right, so on the front we get our electronic lens cover, and that's one thing that I've always loved about EPSON. You know, you don't have to worry about having a manual dust cover or lens cover that you have to take on and take off every time you want to watch and you finish watching. So then on the left and right you have your intake and exhaust for heat control. Don't know how loud this thing is. Once I get it up into my hush box, I will let you guys know, but let's take a look at the back. All right, so on the back you have a USB type A, and then you have, it looks like it's either a micro or mini USB for service. You have your trigger out, you have your LAN, then you have your HDMI, and then you have your HDMI 1, and then your HDMI 2, which is eARC, and then you have your RS-232. And then below that you have a menu button, lens button for manual controls, up, down, left, right, enter, back, and escape. So I'm going to get this into my hush box. I'm going to hook it up to my HD Fury, get some content going, give you guys an idea of what this thing is like. Right now we're probably just going to go through the settings and do like a quick first look at it. And then stay tuned to the channel because I am going to be doing a projector shootout between the LS12000B and I also have the Sony 5000 ES. So let's get this up in the hush box and take a look at the settings. All right, so I have the LS12000B hooked up and it is in my hush box, and I've got it hooked up to my system. Just for reference, I have the 12000B hooked directly up into my HD Fury 4K Diva, and then I'm on the Zedu Z9X, and the Zedu Z9X is doing the low latency Dolby Vision, so it's handling all of the tone mapping. I am going to be switching over to my NVIDIA Shield in a little bit, and I'll tell you why that I'm doing that. But as soon as I hooked up the projector, I turned on the Zedu, and I was like, okay, I don't remember my menu looking this clean. So even just sitting here, like if I go into Aquaman, I sat here for a little bit longer than I should have, just looking at the movie poster, because already before even watching a movie, there's way more detail. There's a lot more sharpness, like natural sharpness, and you can tell that the new technology that they're using for the 4K eShift is much, much improved over the 5040UB, which I have. And by the way, I will be referencing the 5040UB in this video just because that's what I have currently. That's what I own. Some of you may be in the same situation. You're wondering if you should upgrade from a 5040UB or maybe even a 5050 or 6050UB. But just looking at the menus and movie posters, I can tell that there is a big difference already. The output is better, the black levels are better, and there's also kind of like this little softness that is added that just adds to the picture quality. Alright, so now I've switched over to my NVIDIA Shield, and the reason why I've done that is because my NVIDIA Shield is the 2017 version. So it doesn't have Dolby Vision, and it doesn't have, the AI upscaling. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I want the projector to do all of the upscaling and the HDR tone mapping, so you can, get an idea. Again, this is a YouTube video. There's all sorts of compression and stuff going on, so you're not going to be able to see what I'm seeing, but I still want to give you some type of reference and representation of what's going on. But yeah, so, Aquaman, this scene is really tough for a lot of projectors and displays, but this movie looks great. Like, if I go back and watch this on my EPSON 5040UB, I will definitely notice a difference. I mean, the picture quality is just way better on the LS12000B. I am very impressed with this. I'm gonna hit pause because I'm gonna get a copyright strike. And this is actually a perfect scene, one of the perfect scenes to pause. But everything is just taken up a notch on the LS12000B. Colors are more vibrant, detail is more enhanced, the sharpness is better. I mean, you look at the colors, they look a lot more natural on the 12000B. So I'm going to go ahead and go into the settings so we can check out those. And just to let you know, the settings is going to look a little bit different, and you have way more options. Obviously, this is a laser projector. You've got HDR tone mapping going on, other stuff, different technology from the previous, so you're going to have more options. But if we open up the settings, you have image. So here, you can select the color mode, and right now I'm on cinema. This is the one that I found to be the best for movies that I like. Now, it doesn't normally have the most light output in the settings. You can change that, and I did, but this is the best one for me. And some of the other settings, there's some things that I don't really care for, that I wouldn't say is a deal breaker for me, but I'll talk about that later. But let me go up to dynamic and then work my way down. So that's the image right now in cinema. So if I go to dynamic, you can see it gets way brighter, but I feel like the colors maybe aren't as accurate, which, while I'm on that topic, as soon as I started watching content on this, I realized that this is a projector that needs to be professionally calibrated. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't just plug this up and start watching stuff and, the picture's going to look terrible. I'm not saying that. You can absolutely plug this up and, plug and play and start watching content, tweak a few things, but it's apparent when you go to some of these other color modes that it needs to be calibrated. Cinema is usually, one that doesn't need to be calibrated, and it's already, ready to go. So that's dynamic. This is vivid. So a little bit less light, a little bit more accurate on, the colors. Then you have bright cinema, which to me is my favorite, natural, and B&W cinema. Now, I will say that when you go all the way up to dynamic, the fan noise is going to get considerably louder, which is normal. However, on all these other settings, to my ears, the projector is much quieter than the 5040UB when it's not using, the highest settings, which is very, very good. So those are the settings. I'm going to go back to cinema. And then we're going to go to return. And then you have brightness. You can adjust the brightness. You can adjust the contrast, color saturation, tint, sharpness. This is one thing that I turn off on any TV or projector that I get. This is literally the first thing that I do because I always hate how, the sharpness adds all that grain, which I will talk about again later. And then you have white balance that you can adjust, the overall white balance of image colors. You've got your frame interpolation. So this is new because on the EPSON 5040UB, I don't even know why it was on there. I could never get that thing to activate. Supposedly it only activated if you were on 1080p content, but I still couldn't get it to activate. This year, you can activate this on 4K content. Now, I will say, and I'm going to turn this on so you can see, I will say that I tried this on my Zedu Z9X with Dolby Vision. If you are using, at least on the Z9X, if you're using Dolby Vision content with this projector, and really, the only way that you're going to get Dolby Vision is with an HD Fury product and maybe some other products. But if you're using this with a Z9X and Dolby Vision, an HD Fury, and you turn on the motion interpolation, you will get a very bad lip sync. And when it first happened, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? And then I turned off the frame interpolation, and then the lip sync was fine. So it seems that this projector doesn't, even though you're using a different device to get that Dolby Vision, I think the bandwidth is just too much. So if you're using a HD Fury to get low latency Dolby Vision on this projector with 4K, you're going to get a very bad lip sync. So I'm going to turn this on high so you can see how this looks. Then we're going to hit play. Now again, I don't know if you'll be able to see this like I can, but the image is very, very clear. Now, a lot of people don't like the motion interpolation. I like it depending on the manufacturer because everyone does it differently. There are some TVs that I've had where I just absolutely didn't like it because it added this sort of like lag on images where, people would move or there was panning. You could see the images lag behind those frames. This is not doing that at all. And this is on high. So let me go back and turn that to normal. We'll hit play. So it's still apparent here, not as much. And then if we go to low, it's almost not even apparent. Like you really can't tell. There's just a little bit that you can tell that it's on, but I think if you just were to watch it, you would forget about it. So if you're somebody that wants a little bit more, smoother image, but you don't like frame interpolation, try the low setting because you might like it. Like I said, you really, really can't tell very much. So let's go back to settings. So we're going to turn that off and then go to return. So then this is where you can control the light output. I would suggest putting this on like 75% or below because, as the laser ages, once it actually starts dimming, which shouldn't be for a very long time, you want to still have some headroom. And, if you set it at 100, then you don't have anywhere else to go from. But if you set it to like a lower setting, like 75%, then you can basically still have some headroom to increase that brightness once it actually starts to dim. So then you have dynamic contrast, which turns off or selects the speed of automatic luminance adjustments based on image brightness. You've got image enhancement, scene adaptive gamma. So this is where, I believe this is EPSON's version of dynamic tone mapping. They just call it scene adaptive gamma. I haven't messed with this too much. I am going to do a little bit more deep dive on this in a different video when I do my comparison of the LS12000B and the Sony 5000 ES that I have here as well. But I believe this is EPSON's version of the dynamic tone mapping, so you can adjust that here. And then you have your gamma, then you have RGB CMY, which you can adjust the hue, saturation, and brightness of each RGB CMY. And then if we go to signal, you've got basically some information. You've got, which source you're on, HDMI 1 or 2, signal format, overscan. You can adjust the color space, the dynamic range. You've got signal status, HDR10, and I don't think it's letting me change that there. And then you've got HDR10 Plus setting. Again, I haven't messed with this too much. I'm only going to have this projector for a couple of days, so I'm going to try to get as much info as I can for you guys, like I said in another video. And then you have image processing. You have HDMI in EQ level. Not really sure what this is. I don't believe this was on the EPSON 5040UB, but it says that it changes the setting if there is noise in the image or if no image is being input from the HDMI input port. And you've got reset. You've got the EDID that you can adjust. So it says it selects the projector resolution so that a connected video input source can display using that resolution. You've got HDMI link, reset, and then under installation, you've got some test patterns. So if you want to do some more fine adjustments, or when you're setting this up, I believe this comes on, but you can, get this image as perfect as you want to your screen. Mine's a little bit off. Again, I'm only going to have this for a couple days, so I tried to get it as best as I could. If I was keeping this for longer, then I would obviously fine-tune this more. But I think I need to adjust some of the feet on the projector just to get this, really perfect. But for now, for testing purposes, it's fine. So we'll hit exit on that. And one thing that I really like, so if you back out of the menu and then go back into the menu again, it takes you right back to where you were before, which is something that I wish was on my other projector, the 5040UB. I always hated having to go back into the settings and start all over from the top and hit however many, down arrows, over arrows. This takes you right back to where you were, so that's really cool. Then you can change the projection, the position of the projection if you're doing front projection or if you need to flip the image. You've got geometry correction, blanking, high altitude mode, and then under display, you can change it to where if there's no signal, you just get a black screen. You can toggle on or off the startup screen, messages, menu color, standby configuration. Most of this stuff people probably aren't going to be messing with, but just wanted to show you. You've got direct power on or off, sleep mode, on or off, standby mode, indicators, trigger out. And then if we go to management, you've got some settings. You've got the lens lock, which I always do, which doesn't really seem to matter because somehow it still moves. And then you've got child lock, and then some other stuff again that you probably just aren't going to, really mess with. And then under information, it'll show you the operation hours, light source hours, your source that you're on, resolution, all that good stuff. And then under network, you've got some network options for wired LAN, info, network settings, memory. This is where you can, save your memory, your lens memory. If you do some lens positions or, you're doing some type of zoom in or out for a scope screen or something. And also this projector does support anamorphic lens. The LS11000 does not, but the Pro model does. And then you've got firmware update. So that's the settings. Again, very cool projector. I will talk about a little bit more about some of the things that I like and then a few things that I've noticed that I don't like. If you're finding value in this video, then do me a solid and show it some love by hitting the like button and consider subscribing so you don't miss future videos like this. And for exclusive content, check out my Patreon page and consider subscribing for a low monthly fee. Alright, let's talk about a few things that I've noticed that you might want to know before I give you my final thoughts. Frame interpolation. So as I mentioned, the frame interpolation on this is really good. Now, I'd say it's even on par with some TVs. And the interpolation doesn't suffer from ghosting like some other interpolation implementations that I've seen on TVs. It's actually really good and I like it. But if you're going to be using this with an HD Fury to get low latency Dolby Vision, there is a pretty significant lip sync discrepancy if you have the frame interpolation active with Dolby Vision content. So I just recommend turning that off if you're not watching Dolby Vision. If it's not Dolby Vision content, then you should be fine. Alright, let's talk about how loud the projector is. Coming from my EPSON 5040UB, the LS12000B is much quieter on pretty much every profile except dynamic, which makes sense. Here are some examples. I was surprised that the LS12000 was quieter than my 5040, which, as I said, makes sense because the LS12000 is using a laser instead of a bulb. Now, it's the fans that are generating the noise, but maybe the laser doesn't produce as much heat as a bulb? I'm not really sure. I just know that the LS12000 was much quieter than my 5040UB. Remote comparison. Both of these remotes are nearly identical with only a few changes to the buttons and the layout. And while we're talking about remotes, you'll be pleased to know that you can use the LS12000B with your Harmony Hub and remote. I have the Harmony Elite and I've had zero issues with it controlling the LS12000. Alright, so here we have our two remotes. So obviously, the EPSON only comes with one, but on the left, I have the EPSON LS12000B remote, and then on the right, I have my EPSON 5040 UB remote. So you can see they pretty much look almost exactly the same. The size is the same, the build is the same, even the battery compartment on the back. It's basically the same remote, but there's a few differences. So if you look up top on the right, you have your home button that's right above the HDMI 1, and on the EPSON LS12000B, that button is not there. And then you've got on the left, the EPSON LS12000B, you've got your information button under the HDMI 1, which is PC on the right, and then you've got light output under HDMI 2, which is LAN on the right, and then the picture-in-picture is gone on the EPSON LS12000B. And then at the very bottom on the left, you'll see there's an HDR button, which is not present on the 5040UB remote on the right. And then there's a couple other buttons that are either missing or added on these remotes. So just wanted to show you the remote on the back. Oops. You can see that this is basically the exact same remote with just a few, buttons. But cosmetically, it's pretty much exactly the same. And of course, both buttons are backlit, and you can see the backlit on the EPSON LS12000B is on. So I took the batteries out of the EPSON 5040UB, mainly so when I first took it out, I was like, this is the same remote. And so I took the batteries out of my remote so that I could differentiate, but then I started looking at it and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, there's some different buttons, so it's pretty easy to see which one is different. So I don't have any batteries on this one, so I can't show you what the light output looks like on the remote, the backlit, but it's pretty much the same. This is probably nitpicking here, but the lens cover this time around on the LS12000B is much louder. I'm not sure why, but it almost seems like they used a cheaper mechanism for the lens cover. At least it sounds cheaper. that's going to bring us to my biggest gripe about the LS12000B, sharpness. As I mentioned before, the LS12000 displays a beautiful image and is a considerable upgrade in picture quality, colors, and light output if you're coming from previous gen EPSON projectors like me with the EPSON 5040UB. The first thing that I did when I turned the projector on was turn the sharpness in the settings completely off. Sharpness always adds a ton of grain. However, even though the sharpness is completely turned off, on every other video profile besides cinema, I would notice a sharpness effect that was still there. And if I could best describe it, it looked like some type of digital manipulation to sharpen the picture. Now, maybe it's just a casualty of the new 4K eShift technology that they're using to shift the pixels to get that true 4K. But I didn't really like it, and I couldn't find a way to get rid of it. That being said, the image still looks pristine, and if I had to live with it, it wouldn't be a deal breaker. I don't think that it should discourage you from buying this projector or anything like that, but again, this is a pro level projector that really needs to be calibrated for it to function at peak performance. Now, I'd be willing to bet that if I had enough time with the LS12000B and the expertise, I could calibrate this sucker and the artificial sharpness look wouldn't even be an issue. So, that's my review of the LS12000B. This projector has an absolutely beautiful image that's going to be an instantly noticeable upgrade over previous gen EPSON bulb projectors. Everything has been improved, upgraded, and enhanced. Vibrant colors, exceptional detail, image quality, contrast, HDR, frame interpolation, light output, everything has been vastly improved, and with this laser light source, this is an upgrade that's going to last you for a really, really long time, and you'll never have to replace a bulb ever again. And if you're pairing this with an HD Fury product for low latency Dolby Vision, which I highly recommend you do, you'll be able to get an even better image for a cinema-like experience in your home theater. Alright guys, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on the LS12000B. Are you going to pick one up? Are you going to finally upgrade from your previous generation EPSON bulb projectors? Sound off in the comments. If you are going to snag an LS12000B, consider purchasing from our channel supporter over at the Grid Hi-Fi, and if you're in the Houston, Texas area, stop by and come see us in person. However you decide to get in touch with the Grid Hi-Fi, let them know that Haterade Cowboy referred you, and I'll leave a link in the description for the website. As always, no matter where you're at on your home theater journey, make sure you enjoy it. For Haterade Cowboy Cinema, I'm Haterade Cowboy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.